Well, I just told you we'd be joined by him, and we are. Scott Kerns, the first ever recruit for UNCG Baseball. How's that sound? First ever recruit. Does that make you feel young?
It makes me feel probably more dated than I need to feel.
Yeah, a little bit more dated, but Scott, it's great to have you here in the press box, and it was great to chat with you before the game today. How's it feel to be back in Greensboro? And more specifically, you said you wanted to see this offense unleashed today. Well, right now, as we begin here at the top of the third, they already got 4 runs for you, but how's it feel to be back?
It always feels good to be back here. You know, when we were here in the early 90s and we were building this program, to come back and see this field and see the crowd that shows up and being on campus is a great experience. And especially, you know, getting back to 70 degrees and sun and getting to sit out and watch them play and light up the scoreboard is a lot of fun.
Longley leading off for ETSU, and he will send this one in the left center field gap, and the Buccaneers get their first hit of the ball game here in the top of the third. But you mentioned about building the program, and you were here when it all started. How was that process, and seeing where it was day one officially as a UNCG Spartan to see where it's grown to now?
It's incredible to see what we did even in the early 90s in such a short period of time. If you look at the first team in 1991 and then going to the regionals in 94 and the success that we had after that, it's you know, probably unprecedented to go from the levels where we started.
Those unprecedented levels, being able to reach the regional back in that 1994 season. Of course, the Spartans won 39 games that year, 39-18, and then later went back in 1997, 45 wins that year for the Spartans.
Yeah,
right now, this team has a chance to try to relive those glory days a bit.
And it's really fun, you know, and in today's world where when we were playing, there was no such thing as Twitter. The internet really didn't have anything streaming live at that point, right?
But
and
Spitz
so
just
to
rocket
not
one,
live
buddy.
here close to the campus, but to be able to follow the program from a distance and keep up with your teammates via text and say, hey, they swept another series, they're leading the conference, and they are just absolutely, you know, this swinging the bat so well, and Link's done a great job of bringing in some big sticks.
They have leading the nation right now. Everybody in the country trying to catch up to the Spartans, entering this series, hitting .360 as a team. As Keaton Hawk's pitch goes outside for the first ball of this count, making it 1-2. It's got to be exciting baseball to be able to watch when you come back and seeing what Link's been able to build. Of course, he's always been able to be an offensive guy, but it's starting to come to fruition here.
Absolutely, and it's a lot of fun to see that he's doing it with a lot of North Carolina kids, right? He's got a nice combination of the local and the state kids, as well as the community college that he's been able to go find some kids. And it's a lot of fun for us to be connected back to the program and to come in and be able to watch again. And, you know, it brings back a lot of really good memories. You know, when we started the program, we did so much more than just play baseball. We had to, because there wasn't a lot of infrastructure to support what we were doing. We practiced off-site. You know, we were. If you were running a restaurant, you would call us the chief cook and bottle washer, because not only did we play and practice and go to class, but we had to get the tarp out on the field. We had to do the landscaping on the field and make sure it was taken care of. And a lot of us were pretty young, and so we had, you know, mandatory study halls that we had to go to. And you look back at those now, you know, 25 plus years later for a lot of us, and those experiences stay with you in a really positive way.
Well, you also were joking with me too, when you first started, the practice hour rules and et cetera were not yet in place, to where you were practicing so much getting the program going. How was that as an athlete getting the program started?
You know, it was incredible, because when we were practicing, it was just what we believed we had to do in order to get better, because we were a brand new Division I program. And we knew we had to outwork other teams in order to get to a level that was, you know, respectable, and then at a level that would compete on a conference level and a national level. And so we put in a whole lot of hours, but it was needed too. I mean, there were times in 1991 that we were getting hit pretty hard, and there were big numbers going up on the scoreboard.
As Mays flies out to center field again, former Spartan Scott Kerns, joining me here in the press box, the first ever recruit for the UNCG baseball program, which of course got started back in 1991. What did you think was the key to the success of the program so early? You talked about the quick progression and being able to reach the NCAA regionals in 1994. Why was that?
Yeah, I think, well, I graduated in 93, so I wasn't a part of the team that was there in 94, but I was part of the building of the program that watched that team get there. And so when I transferred here as a junior, I had a little bit of collegiate experience. The guys that came in as freshmen, they got a whole lot of playing time here because they were the only guys on the team that could do that. And so they got a lot of early experiences as freshmen and sophomore. And by the time they were juniors and seniors, they had as much or more experience in the teams we were playing against. And so those early years of them playing as freshmen and sophomores really led to the success of the program in 93 and 94, and then even beyond. So, when you're a freshman and you're getting every day 4 and 5 at bats against some of the top pitching in the conference and around the region, that pays dividends when you become a sophomore, junior, and senior.
One of the guys we'll talk to later in the broadcast, Sean Pick, Big South Player of the Year. You were able to kind of see his progression as well during the years. How great is it to see Sean and others when you come back to a weekend like this weekend?
When you get to come back, the experiences that you have playing collegiate sports is you remember the times that you had with the guys. And we did things, and we went through tough times. We went through really great times, and it feels like it was yesterday. And so it's really a great experience to be able to come back and enjoy that again. I really hope that we can get more alumni back on a more regular basis. Now that Link's got some success going in the program, and we can get back and hopefully go support them if they, knock on wood, get an opportunity to go play in a regional program somewhere here at the end of this year. And go support the program. So,
as Taylor pops this one high in the infield to get the second out of the inning. And again, Longley was able to steal second a little while ago. I think the one thing, too, for me, this obviously being my first year at UNCG and looking at the history of the program, the one thing that stood out to me was in the whole history of UNCG baseball, there's been 2 guys that have headed up this program. What does that speak about the consistency of this program, knowing there's only been 2 head coaches?
Yeah, and I think it says a lot about the commitment that was there to baseball so early on with Coach Gasky and what he was able to do early in the start of the program. And then, what he did with building this field on this campus and to put UNCG baseball and sort of make it something that was out there on the headlines with this this facility here. It matches anything in the state, I would say. The locker rooms, the workout facilities are fantastic. And then, when it was time for Link to come in and take over the program, he's in his 4th season, I believe, right now. So this is his first full recruiting, right? So he's got guys that he started as freshmen, and now he's brought them in. And you can see the kind of kids he's bringing in. He clearly has an offensive mindset. We're going to hit the ball hard. We're going to hit it around the field. We're going to score a bunch of runs. And hopefully our defense and pitching can hold us in a place where we can win sort of guerrilla ball, which is a lot of fun to watch.
It's a lot of fun to watch indeed. And, of course, one of the guys that started in the midweek rotation, Keaton Hawk, now working himself in the weekend rotation or in his first weekend start this year. Do you have a good Coach Gasky story?
Oh, boy, I have a lot of good Coach Gasky stories. So,
any you can tell on the air?
Yeah, and there are a lot of times, even today, in my professional world, where I think back to experiences when I was pushed beyond my comfort zone by Coach Gasky, and that's what you need to do as a coach and a leader, and those certainly have stuck with me as I've gone beyond, obviously, baseball and had to move into the professional world and make a living in a different way. And those experiences have been fantastic for me. So I'm always appreciative of the chance that I had to do and play with him, for him.
What stood out about Coach Gasky? Because you mentioned it, it's a new program. It just got started. You transferred in, so you were not necessarily already planning to go to UNCG when you did. But when you were transferring in and going through that process of wanting to come to Greensboro, what was so special about that opportunity in this program that maybe you saw to get you to come here?
Yeah. For me, transferring to North Carolina, I was going to school in Illinois at the time, and I loved baseball in the South. So that was the first thing that really attracted me to the program. The second thing was the opportunity. Coach Gasky was going to be committed to building the program, and that was a lot of fun for me. And when I think about what Coach Gasky brought to this program, one word that really comes to mind for me was discipline. I mentioned that he would push players to kind of get beyond what they thought they were capable of doing, and that's not an easy thing to do. Um, we had to play baseball in a little different way. We had to pitch really well. We had to play great defense. We had to steal bases. We had to play a little bit of small ball. And that's how he built his program. I'll tell one of the fun stories about Coach Gasky was he believed you should never walk on a baseball field, never at any time. And so when we would step onto the field, it didn't matter how far away we were from the dugout. We were carrying our bag and we were sprinting to the dugout. So you come in from right center field, which is where the entry is, and you got to run all the way to the dugout on a visitor's field or even at practice. And we were sprinting, and that was the mentality that he had, was the second you stepped onto that field, you were playing hard. And I think that's what really led to the success of the program so early on.
And right now, starting to see it manifest with head coach Link Jarrett as Scott Kerns joins me here, former UNCG Spartan. I'll say former UNC. He's always a UNCG
right.
Spartan, always part of the baseball family. As Dylan Stewart, a current member of the baseball Spartans. He's 1 for 1 today. Stepping in already, 4 runs coming across for UNCG. All 4 of them, if you're just tuning in, came in the bottom half of the first. But Scott catching up with us here in the third, and his former teammate Sean Pick will be joining us in the 6th inning. One of the stories I really enjoyed that you were telling me, Scott, before we came on was how when you first got a broken jaw, you thought it wasn't going to be the best things for you, but it actually turned out to be something special. Tell the viewers a little bit more about what I mean by that.
Yeah, so my junior year, the 1991, we had played a couple of exhibition games, and then we were at a practice, and I broke my jaw, and it was obviously devastating from a pain perspective, and wasn't great for 6 weeks when I was wired shut and had to eat everything through a syringe. But when I look back at it, I got redshirted that year because I couldn't play. And it gave the freshmen that came into the program in 1991 a full season under their belt. And so I got to play with them as a redshirt junior when they were sophomores, and then a redshirt senior when they were juniors. And being able to be a part of that team for 1992 and 93 after a very difficult 1991 year was sort of a blessing in disguise when I broke my jaw. And so, I got to stay with the program longer. I got to be a part of it for 3 years instead of 2, even though one of those I didn't play. And I got to watch the guys that I'm now really close with, like Sean Pick and Brian Moeller and Mike Rickard and Danny Schneider and the rest of the group, develop into really, really good baseball players and a really good team atmosphere.
How much did that 1 year kind of missing out, and you saw how you got to see those guys get development? It's almost really very similar to LJ Kalawaya last year, going through preseason workouts, gets hurt, unable to miss all of last year as Ryan Sigmund lines this one for the first hit of the inning. And this year has just come back and just been unleashed. Again, was named National College Player of the Week last week, SoCon Player of the Week, hit over 600 with 16 RBIs, driven in a week ago. But I asked LJ this too, and I'm very curious to hear your answer is, how does, it's really when you think about, hey, staying out of here, how can that help you? But for you, from progression as a baseball player and just taking that time to sit back, how does that help you as a player moving forward?
Well, the first thing it does, it makes you appreciate what you have, right? It is really hard to watch your teammates. Actually, in 1991, we won 9 games, right? And it was a really rough year because it was a new year for us. And not being able to be on that field and help them compete. So it made you appreciate how hard you need to work when you get healthy again. And that this game isn't going to be around for you to play every single day. And when those opportunities come, you have to take advantage of them.
And right now, Ryan Sigmund takes advantage of a bad throw and swipes the second base bag as Jake Cush now coming to the plate, who's 0 for 1 today after 2 doubles last night for the Spartans in the 6-5 win. Talked about Twitter, social media. How much has that changed? You think about when you're in college now to when you see these guys and everything else that they have that can benefit them, but also all the other distractions that come with it compared to when you were a student athlete.
Yeah, it's it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, I think, right? For those of us that are from, not able to get to the university because of where we live, being able to follow the program literally on a 5-minute by 5-minute basis on Twitter sometimes gets me in trouble at the dinner table as I'm following the Spartan score on a Friday night in a conference series. For the kids today, it may feel like a distraction for those of us that are a little bit more mature in our lives, I guess you could say. They've had it their whole life, so they really don't think of it as a distraction because it's something that they've always managed. I think about what it would be like today to have a son or a daughter playing a college sport from a distance and then being able to follow them with what goes on, to be able to hop online if I couldn't be there to watch my son play and listen to you, Luke, and watch him stream the game, how much fun that is, right? As well as how it can help from a recruiting perspective. Because you can get out to kids now that probably didn't know what your program was like before. And so they get them following you on Twitter, and you can text and get a lot of good things going from that perspective. So I think it's more of a blessing than it is a curse.
And Michael Goss fouls this one and just gets out of play. And a great catch by a fan as well down in the grass area.
Was that Sean Pick?
I don't think it was Sean Pick. That's not Sean. But it could be a former Spartan baseball player. It is. It is a former Spartan baseball player. He could probably get back out there, give him a glove, made the barehanded grab.
Well, the older we get, the better we work. So he's probably over there thinking he could put a uniform on and get back out there and play. So
I'm sure about it. Gorgeous day for baseball. UNCG leads it 4-0. Right Sigmund at second.
We need to put a few more runs on the board here. Get the bats going. Maybe put up another 3 or 4, and East Tennessee State may decide that make plans for tomorrow.
They may try to make plans for tomorrow. And again, UNCG looking for the 9th series win this year.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. When you're playing college baseball and you're playing conference games and conference weekends, your whole objective is to take 2 out of 3. If you can take 2 out of 3 every weekend, you're going to be sitting right at the top of the conference when it comes tournament time. And UNCG's been able to do that, and they've actually been able to pull out, I want to say 3 or 4 different sweeps, 4 sweeps this year. And so, if they should have a bad conference weekend between now and the end of the season, they've covered it with a few sweeps. So, there's a deep one.
And Michael Goss smacks this one, and it goes right at the bottom of the wall. It's easily going to score Sigmund. Goss is going to round second, but turn right back around, and he's got a double. After going 0 for 7 in the past 2 games, Michael Goss gets his first hit today, and it's a big one. A double and makes it 5-0 UNCG, bringing home Ryan Sigmund.
Right on cue. Wanted to get a few more runs, and Ryan helps us out there. So
Here's
maybe
some good luck up here, Scott.
Maybe I need to hang out in the booth a little longer. How well does this job pay?
Well, let me tell you, I don't get paid the big bucks that you would get if you were doing this job. They try to get a former baseball player in here and actually get someone that knows what he's talking about from time to time. And Cesar Trejo with a big home run-like swing, 0 for 1. And you talk about the freshman impact. When you came in 1991, another freshman here in Cesar Trejo, a Greensboro product, to have to come in and play the shortstop role as a freshman.
Absolutely.
You being a player, you understand how difficult that is. Kind of explain to someone like me who knows baseball and the fans that know the game, but how difficult is that stepping into a role, especially one when Trip Shelton held that role and got hurt, and he's had to step in and fill in for him.
Well, I think it's difficult for exactly what you just said. He wasn't the original starting shortstop, and there's so much pressure on sort of up the middle positions, right? Second, short, center field, and catcher, really where you've got to have guys that can play. I was a second baseman, so I can appreciate that. And to be a freshman and hitting the ball as well as he is, and to slide over there when Tripp got injured, and to be continuing to play well, it says a lot about his character. I don't know right off the top of my head, what was he playing before he moved to shortstop?
He was DH.
DH, okay.
As Trejo will
And he beat that out.
go to third base, and he beats it out, showcasing that speed in the 9-hole.
Okay.
A 9-hole hitter. Yeah, I think that's something, too, when you think about it from a baseball perspective, Scott, a .330 batting average in your 9-hole. When you have that as a weapon, especially with the speed of Cesar Trejo, that's not a bad weapon to have in your back pocket, is it?
Well, Sean and I now have seen, one in the third game, and looking at the Spartans lineup, you don't want to pitch to this lineup. And you can tell that East Tennessee State at times, they know who they're facing, and they're sort of trying to nibble around the corners, and there's walks here and there and a few wild pitches, and it makes a big difference because it puts so much pressure on the defense. From what I can tell, there's no easy out in that Spartan lineup right now, and there's guys that are hitting balls in the gaps, and they run pretty well, and I think they've got a lot of really good. And I like what I see from the level of, you got freshmen that are playing, you got sophomores, you got a couple of big seniors sticks in the 3 and 4 hole right now, I believe, and so it's the future looks really bright for Spartan baseball, and it's really fun to see how Link is recruiting kids that can really swing the bats.
You spoke about swinging the bats. 3 guys over 400 batting average this late in the season, and one of them has been Spitznagel, and he fouls this one off. I mean, 3 guys this late in the season hitting over 400. That's just an unbelievable statistic.
Well, there's a reason they're leading the country in hitting at 360 with, I think, the second closest team is about 20 points behind or so.
Yeah, like 330 or something.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, and that reputation will be with you when you get to, obviously, the conference tournament. Everybody knows you because they've played you already. But then hopefully they get into a regional play. And people know how well they hit the ball, and it just puts so much pressure on the defense that you can't give them extra outs. And if you give them an extra out or 2 an inning, they're going to put a big number on the board.
As the 3-1 goes away, and now the bases are loaded for Andrew Moritz, who, by the way, if you're wondering and just tuning in, had a triple back in the first and a single in the second.
He needs to go for the home run and the double to hit for the cycle, and I'm guessing East Tennessee State's going to go to the pen here. I see the bullpen right-hander down there. He just waved his hat and said, "I'm ready to go in, Coach, if you need me." So.
And they may be making that decision here pretty quickly with the bases loaded. You mentioned the young players as well. You got 2 JUCO guys from the standpoint of Michael Goss and Ben Spitznagel, who right now are at the corners. And now 2 freshmen, one in the batter's box right now, and Andrew Moritz and Cesar Trejo, who's at second. To know that you're getting the success from many guys, when you think of it, only 3 seniors on this team. LJ Kalawaya, who of course has had a huge contribution this year. Colin Woody, another huge contribution. You're going to have a lot of these guys coming back, which has got to be making Link Jarrett and alums like you just grin ear to ear.
It really does, and it also, it helps from a recruiting perspective, right? You get to see how well UNCG is playing, and it's not an easy thing to do when you are in the program. But I'll never forget when Coach Gasky was talking with his 91 and 92 teams, and we were going through our first recruiting process, and part of that process was Coach Gasky looked at every one of us and he said, "Listen, our job as recruiters and as coaches is to find a guy that's going to come in and take your starting position." So he looks you right in the eye. He says, "Hey, Scott, you're our starting second baseman today. I hope I go find a guy that's better than you." That's not an easy thing to swallow as a 19 or 20-year-old kid. You're like, no, wait a second. This is my job, and I want to keep it. And it really makes you commit to the program to understand how important it is to continue to bring in recruits that are going to, maybe they're better than you the day they step in the door, and if they're not, they're going to be better than you when as they get better with their from their career progression. So.
Griffin Krieg is the new pitcher for ETSU. He has a 7.90 ERA, 0-3 record on the year. This will be his 16th appearance. He's thrown 27 and a third innings this year, 31 hits, 26 runs, 24 of them have been earned. He has 24 strikeouts, 21 walks. He's allowed 6 doubles, 3 homers this year, and he will try to figure out the answer. He only needs 1 out right now, but the bases are going to be loaded against this lineup. And, you know, Scott, one of the points that you really make, which really in baseball, no matter who you play, you don't want to give them extra outs and try to get out of an inning when you can. But when you're going against a lineup like this, just that added pressure of what you think should be a routine play, all of a sudden you're like, man, I really need to make this play because, look, you don't want to have to go against LJ Kalawaya, who's on deck, and then more of the meat of the order.
Absolutely. And that was something, you know, I mentioned the discipline side of things with Coach Gasky and playing good defense. And when you're playing at levels like this, giving a good team 4, 5 outs in an inning instead of 3, there's no way to keep them down, right? And so, you know, we experienced that a little bit last night. We had one rough inning against East Tennessee State here, and we were able to, you know, manage our way through that. But as you continue to progress and play tougher teams and you get into regionals, you've got to be able to play really good defense and pitch really well.
Well, this should be fun. Andrew Moritz, who's 2 for 2 today, bases loaded, nowhere to put him. And he's coming on to face Griffin Krieg, the reliever, the second arm out of the pen today.
I've been so impressed with Moritz here as a true freshman, right? Playing center field, and the way he swings the bat, hitting .407. Boy, he's got a really bright future here. He's already, you know, he's having a career season right now, right? So it's
having a career year as a freshman. You
and a
mentioned
kid coming
those
out
numbers.
of Charlotte, so it's a lot of fun.
400 hitter, 64 hits, picked up his 7th triple on the year earlier in this ball game. As the 1-1, the Mo. Nukes at a called strike and gets it in there. 1-2, 2 outs. This is a big spot for Griffin Krieg and ETSU trying to stay in this game. 5-0 early, bottom of the third. But UNCG threatening as much as they can threaten. A Spartan at each base bag right now on the 1-2 fouled away.
Nice piece of hitting there. He just spoiled that pitch and going to make him throw another one.
Again, nowhere to put Andrew Moritz.
Center fielder's playing pretty shallow out there. Let's see if he can find a gap.
Again, this big pitcher's ballpark. As Scott just mentioned, Andrew Moritz could have an opportunity, but unfortunately he goes around. It will be strike 3 swinging for Andrew Moritz and the Spartans, but not before they add a run and lead this ball game 5-0. Scott, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for stopping by. Always great to meet a former Spartan, and appreciate the time and enjoy the rest of the day.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoy watching the broadcasts, and hopefully the Spartans will continue on a nice run here through the rest of the season.